coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums run tumming everywhere.
Welcome back, my friends, to another show. For those of you who never had the honor of wearing the uniform, this show will tell you a little bit about and show you some of the lives of the men and women who not only served but support them. And for those of you who wore the uniform, it also reminds you to be proud of what you did and to remember those days when you were back there in the uniform. I'd like to talk about a unit who served with distinction during World War II. During the war, many military personnel were needed to fly fighters. One group that did that were the Tuskegee Airmen. They were a group of African American men who trained to become fighter pilots in the Army Air Corps. At that time, the Army Air Force was under the ridiculous idea that African American men could not learn to fly fighter pilots. These qualified men were sent down to Moton Field in Tuskegee, Alabama. They went through intensive training and graduated. They became the 99th Fighter Squadron. They were attached to the 332nd Fighter Group of the 15th Air Force. They became the first squadron to go to North Africa, Italy, and Sicily. They were provided with P-40 fighters, which at that time were not as good as the German Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulf fighters that the Germans had. Their main job was to escort American bombers on missions over Italy, Sicily, and Europe. There were some concerns by the bomber pilots at first. The 99th decided to make sure our forces and enemy forces knew who they were, so they painted the tails of their fighters red. As the missions went on, the red tails were so efficient in defending the bombers and knocking down enemy fighters that the bomber's crew knew when the red tails were defending them, their chances of getting home alive increased significantly. The red tails destroyed 112 enemy aircraft in combat and only lost 27 bombers, a significant better advantage over all the other units. They had provided and proved how effective they were. I had the honor and privilege of meeting one of them several years ago. They were truly remarkable men and achieved remarkable results. My guest today is Donna Miller. She is the Cook County Commissioner for the 6th District. She was raised in a military family and what we call an Army brat.
That's right.
Her family was stationed at several different posts, including West Point. Donna has had extensive background in healthcare industry as a consultant working with pharmaceuticals and biotech companies. Her life also contained a time working as a volunteer for the Red Cross. She has served on many action committees. She also served in 2016 as a delegate to the Democratic Convention, where she served on the Rules Committee. Her awards include the National Association of Counties Achievement Award for her AED and CPR awareness program, an Advocate of Justice Award, and also the Woman of the Year Award from the American Multi-Ethnic Coalition. She is a holder of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award promoting medical equity. Donna's married and a proud mother of 2 sons. Welcome to my show, Donna.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. We know something about the sacrifices of men and women in uniform, but what is it like to be in a military family, and what was your childhood like?
Well, I appreciate you asking, and I also appreciate you having this platform where you're speaking to not only veterans, but their families as well. And I think it's important for the families to be highlighted as part of the whole service. The family can't, the serviceman or woman can't do their job without their family. And I've seen it for multiple generations. So you mentioned the Tuskegee Airmen, which my grandfather was a part of as well. Not the fighter, like the flying part, but on the Army side. So there's many components to that. So I've seen decades of my grandmother moving from place to place, and she talked about that later in life. And then my mother married my father, and my father was in Vietnam when I was born. And my mother went to stay with my grandparents, so her in-laws, while her husband was serving in the military. And so I was born in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And that was at the time my father was in Vietnam, and my grandfather was in a high-ranking role at Fort Dix base there. So when I think about the sacrifices of the family, I hear about it from the woman's perspective of the wife and the grandmother, or the wife and my mother and my grandmother, and just talking about how it was a way of life for them to pick up and move. It was a way of life for them to find the next school for their children to go to. It was a way of life for them to meet new friends. And, you know, as soon as you move someplace, everybody has that sense of community. But one thing I always recognized and appreciated is the just flexibility of not only the family, but people in the community. So since everyone's used to this, they're used to the new person on the block, and they're used to the new kids in school, and they're used to the new person who doesn't know where to go for different things. So they're very helpful. And people come over and they want to be part of your community, and they want to help you get acclimated to your new house. They want to find where's the park to take the kids to, where is the best place to go for, you know, if you're going to go for other groceries outside of the commissary, where are you going to go? So those type of things come from the community, and those are the little things that make life work.
Your dad was an Army Ranger in Vietnam. Did he talk any about it at all?
You know, it wasn't until I really remember when I was 16, my dad was stationed back at Fort Dix, and I was obviously a teenager. And so I was visiting for the summer, and because my parents got divorced, and then I would visit my father for the summer. And a guy who I knew who was also a teenager, he was like, you know, your dad was like super bad. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, he was Airborne Infantry Ranger. And I'm like, uh-huh. And he goes, did he ever tell you about that? I'm like, not really. I mean, he didn't talk about it. He says, your dad was a bad ASM. Yeah, and so he goes, you should just ask him something. And so that night I asked him, I said, so what does it mean to be a ranger? He's like, just means you're out there. And that's about all he said.
I understand. You know, you said your mother and your grandmother and dad. How was it for you moving around to these bases? How did it affect your life?
You know, I don't think it affected my life. I didn't realize that that was not a way of life, because it was your way of life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when I look at it, back at it as being a child, thought I had a great childhood. Every place I went, I had friends, you know, had great teachers. And what's funny is because of Facebook, like, we're all connected even today. My fourth grade class that I had when I was at West Point, we're all connected on Facebook. We share pictures from my teacher from fourth grade and fifth grade and I think second grade. I was connected to all of my teachers because of Facebook. And then they weren't in the military, so these were civilian teachers. But so I didn't realize that wasn't a way of life until, because everybody I knew, that was their life. And then, but what happened to me later was I moved with my own children, and I just thought, oh, well, you'll be fine. I said, you've only moved once. I mean, it's no big deal. My son was devastated to move, was devastated to move one time.
You were at West Point, living there. What is West Point like? I have to tell you, I had the opportunity to go and did not take it, which I'm sorry for. But what was West Point like?
Well, from a child perspective,
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. You lived in a nice community. You had lots of friends. But the other side of it from the job perspective, because my father had to entertain the cadets every weekend. So every weekend there were cadets at our house, which meant my mother, the wife, had to fix all this food for them. And this was in the 70s, you know, so there was no catering. You know, if you wanted rolls, you made the rolls. If you wanted the table set, you had tablecloths of your own. And of course, an officer's wife had to have her own everything. Linens, tablecloths, plates, glasses, and all those things were set out every weekend. Then they have to be washed by hand. I just remember us washing crystal, you know, because we have to wash the crystal glasses. And that's how, but they were entertaining the cadets so that they would know how to act in society once they left West Point.
Now, I looked at your bio, and one of the things that impressed me was your family history in the military.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, my grandfather was in the Army as well. So my grandfather retired as a full colonel in the Army. My father retired as a full colonel in the Army. And then my uncle also, he taught at West Point for many years, and he's a full colonel. He retired as a full colonel. His son, my cousin, also taught at West Point, and now he just retired, or he's about to retire. No, he did retire, and he's a lieutenant colonel. So many people on both sides of my family, that's just my father's side. My other grandfather was also in the military. So many military people in our family, and that's where they started, let's say, their career if they went on to something else. But my father was a career Army soldier.
So you understand when somebody says me a spam.
Yes. yes. I always joke because we had rules in the house, as many people do, but many people might not have had as strict rules in the house. So we had very strict rules in the house. You had to answer the phone a certain way. You couldn't say hello. It was a script that you had to have. If there was a message to be taken, there was a pad right by the phone. You had to write down exactly the message. Well, I said, that's why I'm very good at taking notes. I've been doing it my whole life.
Did your dad deploy overseas?
He did only one time, and we didn't go with him.
I know. How was it, especially at the holidays?
Well, I don't think he wasn't missing during the holidays.
Oh,
he would
okay.
come back, yeah. So I think when he deployed to Korea, and that was the only time he really went abroad. And the rest of the time, he was always over here, yeah.
What determined your decision as you grew up in life? What kind of drove you?
Sometimes you just don't think of it as driving you until you realize it was part of you instinctively. Like, I didn't know that service was something you had to think about. I just did it. I didn't know that giving back to the community was an option. It was expected. And I think that comes from a military family where service and honor and love of country is just bred in you.
Yes.
Because you're around it all the time, and you're around people who also appreciate it and live it. So I didn't know. I mean, honestly, I didn't start realizing the difference probably until much later in life, that I'm like, wait, everybody doesn't know these things. And not because they weren't in the military. I knew that people in the military might not have known certain things, but I didn't know that people had such really clear, distinctive ways of thinking about service that didn't come from their family, let's
Right.
say. So I feel like mine came from my family for generations. I've been surrounded by it, and nobody beat it over your head. Nobody said, you must do this, you must do that. But in the summer, you were expected to work doing something. That's why I worked at the hospital, but work for free. So I worked as a volunteer at the hospital. So you pick something you want to do, and that's what you did.
Yeah, you were in the healthcare field. When you got out of, how should I put, you had got out of the military technically. And you went into the healthcare field. What did you do?
So I was in sales. I was a salesperson. So I went to college for marketing. Even though my grandfather, who was in the military, he went on to become the Secretary of Aging for the state of Pennsylvania. And he was a bit ahead of his time at that time, because he said, you should go back to school and get a master's in something about geriatrics. I mean, that's what it was called then, geriatrics. I was like, no. I was like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. But he had good advice. I wish I would have taken that advice, but that's okay. I'm okay. But so going into the healthcare field was also something around me. My other grandfather was a physician. He was in the military too. But so I've been around physicians and healthcare related things. But that was also a sense of giving back, because I wanted to work in underserved communities, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing until I just was really doing it. And even in my role as a pharmaceutical rep, I went to underserved communities. I brought resources. I educated people on many aspects of healthcare, and that's what I love to do.
You spent some time as a Red Cross volunteer. What did that entail?
Well, that was, so back in the old days, I think, I don't know if they still call it that, they called them candy stripers. So I was one of those, a candy striper, and I worked in a hospital. And I just did whatever nurses did. Well, I was the helper to the nurse, let's say. I didn't do what nurses did. But I was there every day like a job, on time. I had a little uniform. I wish I had a picture. I think my mother might have a picture, but I've got to find one. But every day you had to wear a uniform. But Red Cross volunteers really you can turn that into a whole career as far as being someone who works for the Red Cross. So I thought about that at one time because my stepmother did work for the Red Cross, and she was deployed many different areas for humanitarian needs.
What made you go into politics?
Right, so that was not a plan. This is one of those things where they say the path chooses you sometimes. This is what happened with me. I was more a behind the scenes person. I lived in DC for a long time after going to college in DC. I worked on Capitol Hill as a volunteer. I always say I worked, but I did work, but you weren't paid. You were an intern. So I interned on Capitol Hill for a senator. And then after I graduated, I thought, I'm going to work on Capitol Hill. I love this. And then my parents told me, they said, well, they did make me an offer. And they said, well, but you can't live off of that. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? they said, well, you basically don't make enough money to have a car and an apartment. And I'm looking at them like, and they're like, oh, and we're not helping you do anything else at this point. Okay, so I don't have enough money. That's what that meant. So I couldn't do that job. So I went and got another job so I could take care of myself. But I was always a volunteer. I always did volunteering for political campaigns. I was a behind the scenes person. I activated on certain issues. And then when I came back to Chicago years later, I always said I really wasn't going to be in politics, but then I ended up marrying a politician. He'll kill me if I said that. I did not marry a politician.
That's on the film.
Well, I married a dentist who became a politician.
Okay.
How about that? Yes. So that's how we that's how I was always around it, and that's how we met and got together. But so that I was in the background, though. I was in the background. And then when an office came open, the one I'm in right now as a commissioner, I was actually on a committee to try to find a person to run for this office. And then the people on the committee said, okay, it should be this. And then someone said, Donna, that sounds like you. I was like, you know what, it does. So that's kind of how it happened.
Well, I think they made a good choice. What were your duties, or what are your duties as a Cook County Commissioner?
So as a commissioner, we are, we manage the budget of all the offices that have to deal with the county. So when people think about the state's attorney, the public defender, the courts, the sheriff, the hospital system, all of those are under our jurisdiction. So we have hearings, we do legislation related to all of those things, and plan out the budget for Cook County. The Cook County budget's about $10 billion. 50% of it, about $5 billion, is the healthcare part. And that's where, because of my background, I thought this would be a great office for me to make the best impact.
Right. What is Cook County doing for our county veterans?
Well, so I'm proud to say that I'm the chair of the Veterans Committee. So actually, I'm the first woman chair of the Veterans Committee. And recently, and you might know this too, so recently we were able to secure $2 million for our Veterans Service Officers component. And that was the first time that we've ever had that significant amount of money. Also, I have a great person on my team, Sam, and he's my veterans coordinator. And we've been going out to different communities to try to engage the Legion halls and get veterans from different communities in one place, or try to get them in one place so they can understand the resources that are available to them, either through the county or other partnerships that we've built. So VSOs are the Veteran Service Organizers, Coordinators. And now through the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, the VACC, we were also able to get 3 more additional veterans VSOs. And the reason that's good is so that we can go out into other communities and build better relationships for veterans to be able to take advantage of the services that are available to them.
Now, how, if a vet in Cook County wanted to find out what things were open to them through the county, how would they go about doing that?
Well, the first thing, they could always call my office. So they can call my office, or they can also call the VACC, and they have people in different areas that can tell them, like if you need something related to rental assistance or healthcare, they have different people that they could guide you to for getting those services. And I do say for every veteran, it's worth asking the question, is there something related to something you think you might be qualified for? And there probably is. There's just a process of tapping into it.
If you don't mind, after the show, we'll put your number up.
Yes.
And the other number.
Yes, please do. Yep, we can do that. Absolutely.
My last question I always ask all my veteran guests is how they felt about being a veteran. How do you feel about us vets?
Well, I think veterans obviously are the backbone of our country, and I appreciate the service that they gave to our country. I do recognize it's a tremendous sacrifice and appreciate every veteran that I ever meet, and thank you and all the veterans who are here listening. But I also think that veterans have a unified voice that might be diminishing now just because of the number of veterans that are out there. So I would encourage all veterans to stand together, find each other in your communities, and work towards the things that you think are important. Because right now we need to make sure that the veterans' voice is one that's really heard, not just here in Cook County, but everywhere.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on my
Thank you.
show.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd like to give you this medal
Oh,
and
great.
this pin.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. My dad collects these.
Well, he's got another one now.
Yes.
Before I go on, I'd like to say a little bit more about military families. We know our troops are in foreign places and feel lonely and they wonder about their families. But what about the families at home? The kids' dads and moms not being able to tell them good night. You know, they can Skype at times, but not often. Or help them with their homework. Or the mom and dads who remain at home and have become both parents. Then there's always the chance of a knock on the door and someone saying, your loved one is not coming home. As strong as I salute our men and women in uniform, I salute their families just as much. Each show I like to read to you from the cards and letters we receive from the units and the people that we have supported. Mr. Kruses, please thank your team for our continued support. The candies, cookies were very well received by the team. We really want to thank you for all the kind words that were written on the cards. Your support and dedication each month is amazing. There are not enough words that can be written or said to thank you enough. God bless each and every one of you and your families. Well, that's it for this month's show. I hope you enjoyed watching it. A little bit of different twist this time, but I think it was really a worthwhile show. And I'm going to be back next week with another one, so I hope you'll come back and watch that too. As usual, honor and respect.